أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله سبحان الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله لقد جاءت رسل ربنا بالحق قالوا سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت عليم الحكيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي يفوض أمري إلى الله بصير بالعباد الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين خاتم النبيين بالقاسم محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الذي أذهب الله عنكم الرجس أهل البيت ويطهركم تطهيرا إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Inshallah, we continue with our discussion into Surah Fatiha, and we are discussing Iyyaka nabudoo wa Iyyaka nastaeen, one of the most profound verses in not just Surah Fatiha but the whole of Quran, because it is the real summary of our journey into surrender. When we say Iyyaka na'budu, we talk about our servitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we talk about our ubudiyah, being the servant of God, being in surrender to God, and saying that I'm your servant and you're my master, and then saying that only from you do I seek help. And when we say only do you I worship, I am giving a sort of allegiance, a sort of pledge to him that I don't hold anybody else other than you as my master. And we've been discussing about surrender, we've been discussing about seeking help and going inwards. Especially we were talking about the divine feminine, and we will continue into that discussion. But before we go into that, I want to talk about something about who this master is. And I know we've discussed Rahman and Rahim, and that is the identification that we want to create with our master. Now, it's not a tyrant master. He's not a master who withholds from us and then seeks obedience. You know, as parents, a lot of times when we want to, get our kids to conform to something, then there's a little bit of a force there. Like, I will not do this for you unless you do this. I will not give this to you unless you do that. And with that kind of parental upbringing, we start to see Allah in that image as well. And just now I was doing my Fajr Salah, and there was an insight that when we read Surah Qul Huwallahu Ahad, Surah Ikhlas, the Surah of purity, it's very connected to Iyyaka na'budu wa Iyyaka nastaeen, because Surah Ikhlas is about oneness and purity of that one God. So it's called Surah Ahad and Surah Ikhlas. And we have discussed it earlier, but it's a good reminder that when water is alone in a container, I have water in front of me, when water is alone in a container, we will call it pure. But the minute I mix something into it, it will become impure. There will be something else added to it. And so ikhlas is purity. It's completely khalis. In Urdu, we say khalis, When we buy milk, they try to convince us to buy milk, and they'll say khalis doodh. Like, it's 100% pure milk. There is no mixing of impurities in that. So when something is 100% pure, it's khalis, then we call it pure because there's only one ingredient. There's this presence of oneness. And so Surah Ahad is connected to the khulus, the ikhlas, the purity of this one God, Tawheed of one. That's why it's called Surah Tawheed as well. And for us, it's important because when we're saying Iyyaka na'budu, we're also talking about that oneness. We're saying only you. You are the only master. There's only one. There is no other two. And if we go further into Surah Ikhlas, first it's talking about Qul huwallahu ahad, say that you are one. Allahu samad. And samad is that you don't need anybody else. And you are independent. I worship a master who is independent, doesn't need anybody else. And what we end up doing a lot of times in life is that we become expectants from the slaves of the master. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the master, and then he has people. And when we become slaves to the slaves, we become we become the beggars from the beggars. The people in this world who we feel dependent upon are also beggars to Allah, who are also servants to Allah, who are also slaves to Allah. We become their slaves, we become their servants, we become expectant of them, that they will fulfill our hajat, they will fulfill our expectation. They will fill me with love, they will fill me with what I need. And I have this ihtiyaj, I have this hajat, I have this lack in me that another human being can fill, when nobody can really fill except the master of all the slaves, who is only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we move forward and then we read Iyyaka nabudoo, lam yalid walam yulad. And lam yalid walam yulad is in a very theoretical way, we are saying you don't have any kids and you don't have any parents. But in a deeper way, what we're saying is that, you know, you don't take on to a legacy, and you're not dependent on any kind of ancestry. You don't depend on anybody's name, anybody's previous work. You don't have a history, and you are not going to be, you know, taken forward by another entity, by children, by you don't beget and you're not begotten. And how that connects to our tawheed is our own action, our own emulation of God, in which we say that I am not like my parents and I am not like my children, and neither do my children have to be like me. And I have to be me. I'm on my own journey. I'm on my own journey of this unique personality who needs to find my own self, apart from who my parents are and apart from who my children are. And this becomes very important. I will discuss this further. And what I want to really come to is the last part of Surah Tawheed, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, walam yakullahoo kufu, and he is like none other. The reason I wanted to, the insight that I had, and the reason I wanted to come to this ayat is because when we say, Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nastaeen, God, I am your servant, and only from you do I seek my help, my succor, my sustenance, my expectation, my lack. Only through you I want to fill myself. Only through you I want to make this broken self whole. We're saying that the reason I'm coming to you is because you are like none other. Okay, what we say that all the time. Allah, you're not like any other. So what are we really saying? Is it you are not like any other human being. There is nothing about you which is like a human being. So you don't break your promises. You don't run out of your treasures like other human beings. You don't come and brag in my face that you helped me. You are not one of those who will put me in my situation and my life in a box and say, if certain causes are there, then the effects can be achieved. For example, if you have money, only then you can get good education or good health facilities or good lifestyle, or only if you have money can your problems be solved, right? That's the way the world works. Or only if you have good parents can you be, you know, a sorted out kid. Or only if you have connections will you be able to make it into certain circles. Or only if you are beautiful will you get XYZ, you know. That's how the world works. The way human beings work is that they work with conditions. If you give, I will give. If there's a good giving, there's a good taking, you know. Um, so this dunya is a world of cause and effect. And in this dunya, we get confined by these causes and effects. We get confined by these ideas of what works and what is the system. And only if you do it this way can your work be done, or can you get out of this situation, you know. But Allah is like none of that. He's lam walam yakullahoo kufu. That is who he is. He is not like anything. He's not like anyone. So if he's not like anything and he's not like anyone, then who is he? Allah says in Surah Talaq, he says that whoever is mindful of Allah, he will make a way out for them where they cannot even imagine, right? وَمَن يَتَّقِ اللَّهَ يَجْعَل لَهُ مَخْرَجًا وَيَرْزُقْهُ مِنْ حَيْثُ لَا يَحْتَسِبُ. لَا يَحْتَسِب. You can't even imagine. Why can't you imagine? Because وَلَمْ يَكُنْ لَهُ كُفُوًا أَحَدٌ. He's not like anybody. You can't put an end or a seal to what he will do for you. You can't decide from before how he will open the door for you, where he will provide for you from, who will he send for your support, how will he open the situation for you. You have no idea. Why? Because he's not like you, so he doesn't think like you. You know, he doesn't come to conclusions like you. He's not like anybody you know. He's not like anything you've ever seen before. You know, in Surah Rahman, he says, Kulla yawmin huwa fi sha'an. As in, Kulla yawm, every moment, he is manifesting something new is manifesting out of it. So new that is unprecedented. You have never seen it before. There is something that you see in the presence of your God that you have never seen, experienced, known before. So this idea of the uniqueness of God has to penetrate into our hearts in times of hopelessness, darkness, feeling low, and not being able to see how you will get out of a certain situation. Because it's going to be something completely new. It's going to be a surprise. It's going to be something that you couldn't even imagine. La yahtasib. There is no calculation. You know, hisab nahi hai. So there is no hisab. There is la yahtasib. You can't calculate how he will take you out of that situation, or what he will do for you, or how will he open that way for you. So when we stand in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and we say, Iyyaka nabudoo wa iyyaka nastaeen, we are standing in front of a God who cannot be calculated, who cannot be understood in terms of his infinite mercy, infinite help, infinite. And when I say the word infinite, I'm literally saying beyond time and space, beyond this brain that is bound by whatever our, binding or confining influences are. And in that way, the more we expect this expansive view of God, the more the world expands for us, the more the soul expands for us. Because Allah says, I am in the opinion of my servant. Now, there is Allah like a river, unlimited river, and it's flowing. And there's no limit to what and how much is flowing in this river. But Dr. Wayne Dyer would say, how sad would it be that you would stand in a river with a thimble, like that little tiny cup that we use for embroidery, right? That is my opinion. That thimble is my opinion of him. If I think of him as a thimble, he will present himself. He will only be captured by my thimble. If I think of him as a bucket, then that is going to be who he is going to be, because that's how much I am able to take of him. But then, I have spoken about this before, that people like Imam Hussein, they break their cups. Their cups are broken. There is no cup. They just drown and drench themselves in the river. So there is no him anymore. There's only Allah. And inshallah, we aim for that. We want to be there, and we tell Allah, it's not in our hands, only you can do it, but we can feel inspired, and we can, we can be like those kids who stand in front of Allah and say, Allah, I don't know how I'll get there. I don't know what I'll do. I have no idea, with the kind of person I am right now, with all my grumpiness and all my sadness and all my limitations, with all my biases. I don't know how I'll get there, but I can ask you and you can help me, right? And Allah will for sure help, because He's saying, I am in the opinion of my servant. So the idea is that how much are we going to take of this nastaeen, Iyyaka nabudoo wa iyyaka nastaeen, only from you do I seek help. So how much am I going to take help from this God is going to depend on what I think of Him. Who is He for me? Is He one of those limited images of a human being in my mind, what I experience, or what I have experienced Him to be through His creation? Or am I going to break all of these images, and I'm going to break up all of these ideas, and then say, God, show yourself to me. Show who you are to me without me, without not who I am, but who you are. So I was reading this book, this Self-Disclosure of God, and it's Principles of Ibn Arabi's Cosmology. And something really interesting I read was that, so the sustenance that we seek in our soul is, at one level, the house and the car and the food and the education and, old age security or whatever. These are things we seek because we are fearful beings. We're like little scary cats. We get scared and we want things to be stable and we want certainty in our life. So we want all these things, and then we like, I'm going to feel really good about my life now. Everything is. But that's not what really life is. It will knock you out and tell you that's not life. Life is all about uncertainty. But the true seeking that the soul seeks is the haqq, the truth, the knowledge of the truth. And so in this book over here, it says that there's a little prose that I will read and then I will explain. Knowledge is the most eminent grant that He gives, but unveiling is the most magnificent and clearest way. If you ask God the real in seeking, ask Him for unveiling, for He will grant it. Devote yourselves to knocking, for the claims of engendered things have locked the door, but God's munificence opens it. When a knowledge is not, now I'm reading the explanation. Okay, so what they're saying is that if you want to ask for anything, then ask for the haqq, for the truth, and ask for an unveiling, so that these curtains of oblivion, these curtains of ignorance, these curtains and veils of not being able to see the real can be removed. So whatever you want to ask for unveiling. And devote yourself to knocking on this door, right? Because there's so many doors that are locked to us, and we want to open and enter into the higher realms of reality. So they go on to explain, and they say, when a knowledge is not gained through an unveiling after the opening of the door, opening of the door is when an unveiling that is bestowed, made manifest, and elucidated by the divine munificence. When something is, explained through us through an inner experience, then it is an awareness, but it is not knowledge. It's just a shaur, it's just an awareness, but it's not knowledge. Because it has been gained from behind the door while the door is locked. This door is nothing but you, for you are under the ruling property of your meaning and your habitation. And that is the locking of the door. So what they're saying is that the biggest hurdle in the unveiling is you, your meaning and your habitation. So mystics say that as long as you keep saying, I love Allah, I seek Allah, I want Allah, the I is still there. There's a me and Him. So to be able to go to the truth, the I has to go. And this is the gist of this ayat, Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nastaeen, because na'bud, the abd, the true surrendered servant, is the one who has eliminated the I, who is gone. Now, I is not there. Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam wasn't there. Ali Murtaza wasn't there. It was only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gleaming through this vessel. And each were a different reflection. Each were a different glimmer of the same light. Like Rumi says, lamps are different, but the light is the same. But these holy personalities had completely eliminated the I. And it is Allah's doing, the elimination of the I. But in real terms, in our very lowly, we're really lowly beings, we at our level, what does this mean? That the biggest hurdle between opening this door of unveiling to the truth is me. How is that me? It's my ideas, and it is my theories in my mind, and it is my conclusions, and it is me saying, I've spent a lifetime of experience. I've spent a lifetime of studying and talking and learning and reading. So I have these ideas, these are my theories. I have come to these conclusions about life. And I believe this should be like this, and I believe that should be like that. And there is so much I everywhere, right? So a lot of times when we will sit down to talk to a scholar, it takes a lot of, it takes a gift of God, a spark of a light to suddenly realize, am I really here to listen, or am I here to just answer back? And that can be a really big gift, because if we have that realization and we say, I'm not here to answer back, but I am really open to really listening and letting go of what I already know, and letting go of who I've been, and letting go of my history and my past. And I'm just going to come here as an empty vessel to take what I need to learn. Then the veils, get removed and the door opens, and you can really somehow take some level of, not always, it's only Allah's gift, but some level of purity of what you're taking in. And we see that Allah says constantly that only Allah has the right to be in our hearts. But for Allah to enter our hearts, everything has to go away first. So what is Allah? By definition, we can just have definitions or words to describe Allah, but we can't truly know Him. But in our limited understanding of who Allah is light. Allah is truth. Allah is purity. Allah is knowledge, right? We say al-ilmu nurun, and then we say Allahu nuru samawati wal ardh, right? These are descriptions of who Allah is, and we're trying to seek and understand Him. So if Allah is light, and Allah is pure, and Allah is truth, and Allah is haqq, then for all of these light and truth and purity to enter our hearts, first, everything that is already in the heart has to go. And when all of that is gone, then what happens is that first we're going through this place of saying, Iyyaka na'budu, you completely let go of the me. Imagine a silhouette of your body, and then start writing down who you are inside it. And what your roles are. Like, this is who I am. I am an environmentalist. I am an activist. I am a vegan, like I'm a vegetarian. I am this. Like you start, I am. All of this is a sum of who I am. And we become a sum of all of these definitions that we give to ourselves as who we are. And then imagine they all become veils in seeking what is new without a bias, so that the truth can actually come to us. And the reason I say that is because whenever I talk about Hazrat Musa and the youth of Hazrat Musa, I feel like the youth are those who have not yet developed an identity. They're going through an identity crisis. They're like, I don't know what profession I'll be. I don't know who I will marry. I don't know which country I will live. I don't know which college will I study. I don't know which majors and minors will I do. Um, and I have a couple of favorite cars, but I don't know which one will be my favorite. So they have not yet consolidated themselves with certain identities. So when we present something new to them, a new fashion, a new idea, they will be the first ones to experiment with it. They will be the first ones to say, I want to try this. I want to see how it looks. I want to go and see this place. It's a new place. It's the hip new thing happening. Compared to those who are now older, who are consolidated and very tightened up, and there's a word a teacher used. There's a hardened shell on them, and it's difficult to break because now they have grounded themselves in that identity. So that becomes the vision and the lens through which they see the world, and they will filter whatever they get through those ideas of right and wrong. And that's why when a new truth comes, it will be difficult for an older person to receive it and an older person to accept it and give it a chance. But a young teenager will give it far more importance and respect. And these days, there's this whole notion of startups. Recently started, everybody's going into startups. Like, what are startups? These are unique ideas of business, and it may hit or miss. And it can make you a millionaire, or it won't work, and then you move on to the next one. And who does that? The startup stuff, who is willing to give a new idea a chance, who is willing to say, this idea is completely new. It's so new that it's almost ridiculous, but let's give it a chance. So there's a whole trend of giving new things a chance. And that is what truth is about. The seeker of the truth will keep shedding layers of consolidation that happens on them. So if you've heard of the word calcification, there's a calcification on our teeth. There's a calcification in water, like particles of calcium, they form a hard layer. And then you go to the dentist, and the dentist will, plaque or whatever gets stuck on your teeth and creates the gunk in your mouth. They have to really rub it out, and they have to really, scrub it out. They have to really wash it out so that that hardened layer of gunk goes away. This is the work of the soul, to constantly be in a phase of going into life, experiencing something, creating an opinion, and then completely letting it go. Taking something new makes sense, okay, for a while it stays your truth, and then completely letting it go. Because as you keep growing, the whales come and the whales go. We keep seeing new things, we keep forming new ideas, and then when a better idea comes, you have to give it a chance. And these are our biases. These are our biases that get connected with our emotions. So what happens is that when we develop a new idea, for example, a woman who's been through abuse, if suddenly hears of a very strong feminist movement, then emotionally she feels connected to that. And that becomes her idea about how life should be done. And a lot of the feminism goes into a lot of angry revolt, angry rebellion, anger, hurt. And you can just sense that anger in the statements they give or the things they write. And it's in a reactionary way, because there's an emotion connected here, there's a hurt connected here, there's a trigger connected here, which is now connecting you to your truth. So biases and emotions, they get in the way of the truth at times, because now they are affiliated with who you've been and how your life has been. And so true surrender then becomes the hardest thing of overcoming that emotional attachment to something. Why? Because this emotional attachment was developed and created within your system of fight or flight, because it enabled you to find a way to calm your hurt and create a protection so that you could deal with this pain in life. And I want to give an example here, because I've done a lot of theoretical talk, but it needs to really become practical. So for example, as a child, you were told that you need to control the amount of food you eat, because you felt like eating helped you emotionally. A lot of people eat when they're going through an emotional turmoil. So but you were really reprimanded for it, and it really hurt you. It really hurt you. It really hurt you. So you decided, I will never do this with my children. I'm not going to shame them for eating. All right. Now, there's this emotional charge connected to being reprimanded for eating, right? And so it's a reactionary truth that you have created, because you felt so much pain and hurt for being shamed for eating that you don't want to do it to your children. But then, because of this emotional thing, and you have created a fence around it, you never want to practice it, you never want to do it, you've lost the balance. And now you see your child eating too much, you see your child binge eating or using eating as a place of sense of, some sort of comfort in their emotional pain. You see that, but you're not willing to address it. In your mind, you're constantly saying, but I had promised myself I will never do this. I had promised myself I will never do this. I will never go to this place. Because going to that place means revisiting all of your shame and pain. And that's going to be a huge, like a Pandora's box, right? And you will notice that little things like these trigger us as well. We will become edgy and snappy around the child, and we won't say those things, but we'll be feeling those things because we're reliving our shame and guilt. Now, to overcome this situation where now my childhood trauma has become a veil, but I'm perceiving it as a truth, right? I'm perceiving this as my truth. Shaming a child for eating too much is wrong. That's my truth right now. Do not shame a child for eating too much. So I'm not going to tell my child, don't eat much. I'm going to keep doing something else. And I feel like my emotional security lies in not going into this deep discussion on food, etc., etc. So I keep going in circles around this situation. But the true, unveiling would be for me to sit with my shame and understand my shame around this food business. And then look at it, what was painful, what wasn't, and then imagine the amount of bravery and courage it will take for me to do the very same thing that hurt me, that I will need to now discipline my child with their food habits and not get triggered. That would be a true work of healing. Because every single time these words come out of my mouth about food, I'm going to constantly go back to my moments of shame. So how will I manage my emotional outbursts, right? It will need so much awareness and inner work. But eventually, inshallah, when we work around our triggers, emotions, childhood traumas, and shame, then we can come back to a place of securely disciplining our children with their food without the shame. So there will be a discipline around food, but the shame wouldn't be there, and that would be our aim. But I cannot come to that stage of disciplining my child and talking about food and disciplining them about food unless I have done that inner work. So that is why our children become the biggest pokers. They poke us the most, they will press most of our buttons, and they become messengers from the unseen to remind us wherever we need to work, you know. And in my experience, that's what's happened. Like, my children have been the biggest, teachers for me, because they will go and press all the buttons that I do not want to be pressed. So I feel that life will keep throwing us into situations where the triggers will come and we will be forced to sit with them. And eventually, I don't know if it's true for you guys, but I noticed that a lot of the things in my life where I said, I will never be friends with a person like this, or I will never do life like this, or I swear I will not do ever like this or that, whatever, that very same thing will stand in my face, and I'll have to embrace it. And until and unless I do not embrace it, it will keep staring me in my face and not leave, because it's a law. They say that, pain will never leave until the lesson is learned. So these lessons, they come to create this surrender in us, which is a true surrender of the I, of who I am and what my blocks are and what my beliefs are. And lifelong journey, the inner work is about constantly digging deeper and seeing where is the I identifying with, what are these beliefs of block that are blocking my journey inwards towards myself, and then keep on working on going deeper and finding these beliefs, these blocks, these attachments to ideas. For example, like a lot of our elders will believe that because they're older, they know better. So communicating with the youth for them becomes um, a matter of respect. It becomes a matter of, um, you know, seeking validation. And if they don't get that, then they feel disrespected. And I'm the older one, I know better. How can they come and teach me? Or how can they tell me anything new? A lot of our community has stagnated because of that, because a lot of the older elders, with all my respect for them and love for them, there's a difficult, and I don't know what I'll be, so I'm not in any position to judge or anything. So what that does is that it stagnates the community, because when the leaders are not willing to listen, the leaders are not willing to move out of who they are, then the community becomes a reflection of that image of that person, or those individuals. It becomes a reflection of them and their growth and their journey, because they are now controlling the journey of the rest of the people in the community. So if each human being, if each individual takes upon themselves this journey of constantly working on themselves and growing and changing, then the whole community reflects that, and even, okay, leave the elders, like, I apologize, leave the elders, mothers, of the children, fathers of children, individually in each family unit. If we surrender to the new, that we are being shown, then we will be constantly changing and growing and evolving, and so can our children. And Imam Ali is constantly saying your children are not for the same time. They're not. So don't expect the same from them. You have to be open. And Khalil Gibran, if I'm not wrong, he says that your children are your teachers. They have you have not been planted in their lives to teach them. They've been planted in your life to teach you, to show you who and where you need to work. So coming back to Iyyaka nabudoo, the servitude, the surrender of the servant to the master, the master who is nothing but truth and haq and light and purity, is to say, I surrender. I let go of who I am. And I am a sum of my ideas, and I'm a sum of my beliefs, and I'm a sum of my, rigid attachments to certain belief systems. And when that I starts to melt, then the nastaeen comes, the help comes. Why? Because if I'm going to stand in my position and say, well, Allah, I want this situation to be resolved, but I want it resolved in this way. I want you to get my son married, but he has to marry this girl only, and that girl, it has to be like this only, and she needs to behave like this only, and then my son has to be. You've completely decided the plan and given it to Allah, who is like no other. So Allah is very creative in his gifts, and we are now telling him to be like a boring old boarding school teacher. And Allah is not like that. He's very colorful, he's very creative. Look at the flowers and the leaves. Every day a new flower comes with a new color, with a new fragrance. So when we attach ourselves to the outcome, then the help gets restricted, because we have narrowed our options. But this is also connected to the law of attraction and manifestation. If you read about it, they will tell you that our thoughts create our reality, and in order to attract what we want in our lives, we need to let go of the outcome. So this is letting go of the outcome. What is letting go of the outcome? Is to believe in a God of all possibilities, is to believe in a God of infinite possibilities who cannot be confined to any outcome. And therefore, we need to then go deeper into ourselves when we're asking for a dua and say, what is my deeper desire? What is my deeper desire when I say my son needs to get married? I would like my son to live a happy, fulfilling life. Now, how broad is that compared to I need him to be married like this, right? It's saying, I want to see my son happy and fulfilled, and living his calling, living a fulfilling life of dunya and akhirah, and then letting Allah decide his path, because Allah has made him a unique individual. And so then you go into that place of la yahtasib. I know a lot of people who seek companions for their children. They're seeking partners for their children. They want them getting married, and they're very worried that our children are not getting married. I don't know where this bond will come, where this rishta will come. I don't know. Or my daughter needs to get into university, or as genuine desires, we as parents, we worry for our children. So when we stand in front of that God, we do this salah at times, we do mannats and we do nazar, and then we do this namaz of Imam al-Zamana, and then we say Iyyaka nabudoo wa Iyyaka nastaeen 100 times. So we have to come to an understanding of who are we asking and what are we asking. And so for that, if I am asking for even a job or a partner or an education degree or a solution to any situation, first of all, before I even ask that God, I have to come into a state of ubudiyah and surrender, where first of all, I have to let go of me. What do I want? The I has to go, right? So you say, I want this, the I has to go, right? Okay. Then what is left if you remove the I? The needy one, the one in need. The needy one is here, right? I'm in need, but it's the needy one who's here, not I with the description of what I need and who I am and what my ideas are. So you let go of all of that. And then you come into a place of Iyyaka nastaeen. Only you do I seek help. So there is no me here. It's not I am asking you and I am your servant. It is your servant There's no I, your servant, and your help is needed. So the attention is gone from the I and it's gone on to the from the for the needy one seeking the one who can help. And the nastaeen, the help now has to come from the one who cannot be put into a box. He's completely out of the box. He is the one who is walam yakullahoo kufu. There is no one like him. His help is like none other. His help comes from where you can't imagine. And he manifests himself anew, different, unique in every moment. So this was some discussion into, Iyyaka nabudoo, Iyyaka nastaeen, through knowledge and through unveiling, through seeking the truth. And to go to the truth, the I has to be diminished. And for that, emotional work is needed, because until and unless we are not aware of our triggers, the information that we will receive will always be filtered through my lens and my screen. If imagine if you have a glass window, but it's tinted with a color like pink or red or blue, then whatever you are seeing is going to come through that color. So even though the world is not red, you will see it as red. And so now your information is tainted. Your information is distorted. So the truth is gone. You can't see the truth. And one more thing about surrender that I wanted to share is what we were talking about last time, which was about the feminine energy. And I just want to read a little bit about feminine energy from Marianne Williamson's book, A Return to Love. And she says something about passive energy. We were talking about the passive energy, and we talked about how there is, if you have a pile of iron fillings, you can either use your hand and make that effort to create a design, or you can just use a magnet, which will immediately create a pattern without any effort, because the magnet holds an energy. There's an energetic pull, there's an energetic attraction which is creating that pattern. So that creation of pattern is effortless compared to the effort of creating the pattern, right? So what the feminine energy that we hold within, what is it? I had a few things to share, but maybe I will share it next time, but I want to start it this time. The feminine energy is that part of the divine manifestation which is connected to Allah far more strongly in what we read in the Quran. So for example, we see that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us that he loves us like 70 mothers. He introduces himself as Ar-Rahman, so he's connected to the womb. Rahama in Rahman is the womb. Womb is the mother's womb. Womb is the place of creation. Okay. A woman is a place of creation. Okay. And they give description of a woman and they say you give groceries to a woman and she'll create a meal, a banquet. You give a house to a woman and she'll create a home. You'll give a sperm to a woman and she'll create a baby, right? So there's this amplification and an aspect of growth, which is part of the woman's nature. So when it comes to homemaking, when it comes to home building, the woman is the leader because she has that ability to nurture and nourish a home. And she has the ability to be there for the members of the family. And she becomes that source of energy that causes growth. So I've been thinking a lot because, with all these queries that come to me from women struggling with their relationships with men, with their husbands, we've discussed this last time as well. We feel like we get stuck in a place where we feel like my husband's not listening. No, he's not doing this, he's not doing that, his ideas are ridiculous, and he's saying this, how can this work? He doesn't understand. So the thing is that the man's job is not growth and nourishment like that. His work is very structured. Allah has given him very different duties compared to a woman. So man is a person of the brain, who is structured, who needs to be in a place where he is providing food on the table, shelter for you, Maslow's hierarchy. He's doing the basic stuff. Now, if you look at Maslow's hierarchy, it says that you can reach enlightenment or self-actualization only when your basic needs are met. And if you look at the needs of, like food, shelter, security, social life, all of that, somehow man is supposed to do that, right? Like he's supposed to provide and all of those things. So what does a woman do then? The woman in Maslow's hierarchy is in that place of self-actualization and enlightenment. She is the one of the heart. Heart is where there's enlightenment. So it's like the man is providing for her so she can get on with her work, which is enlightenment. Now, if she is in a place of enlightenment and she keeps saying, like, how can this guy not be enlightened? Why isn't he enlightened enough? He's not understanding these things, because Allah comes from the heart, and a woman is really close in that matter to the growth work that is needed in the emotion and all of that. So men won't go for therapy. Women are always like, I'll go for counseling, I'll go for therapy. Tell me something. I want to improve my relationship with my husband. I want to improve my relationship with my children. And you go to the guy, and the guy's like, I don't want to go for therapy. I don't want to talk to anybody. He'll just go into his man cave and not even talk. You have to talk. You have to go for counseling. You have to do this. You have to do that. But they won't do it because his work wasn't that. So when a woman is reading and a woman is doing her work and she is, learning and talking and book clubs and, all of that, while the guy is out there working hard, just imagine, like, he's so tired the whole day. He comes home, he doesn't want to talk about emotions and all the pain and the hard work and all that. A woman is doing all of that work. Why is she so inclined in doing all that work? Is because she is the nourisher. She is the nurturer. She has that power and the ability to be that therapeutic effect for everyone in her family. And that is why we come back to that iron filling. If she keeps nourishing herself, nurturing herself, she does her inner work, she does her emotional work, then she can influence everyone around her with that energy of the magnet around the iron filling. Yesterday, somebody posted, I was reading on Instagram, they said, when you're not feeling motivated, what did they say? I think I took a screenshot of it. If I can find it, let me just, it was really profound. Yeah, it said, when you're not motivated, read, and when you're thinking too much, write. So this reading and writing, even motivation I take as moments when I feel slumped, when I feel depressed, down, hopeless, feeling like there's no way out. You read. When you read, suddenly the doors open, So a woman can do that. A woman does that. She sits and reads self-help books. She goes to seminars and lectures. She does, therapy. She talks. She takes counsel. She'll call up a friend and say, help me out. I can't think straight. My husband's doing this. My children are doing this. I don't know how to help them. And so we have these women's circles, where we sit and we talk and we discuss and we vent and all of that. It's because that is what we're wired for. And that is our energy. So when we work on ourselves, we become that fountain in, imagine a patio in your house. and you're the fountain, and everybody comes and drinks from it. They refresh themselves through it. So the work of the fountain now is to stay pure, to stay refreshing, to stay cool and calm, because you're the one refreshing the rest of the family. And a lot of times I have had this experience in my life, that there are times when I would be grumpy and upset, and I would just say, like, it's too much and I can't do it. Everyone in the family will be grumpy and throwing fits and tantrums and everything. And I'd be like, can I not just get a break? Like, don't I have the right to just be grumpy today without everybody else falling apart? So in one way, we feel grumpy about that, but it also shows the domino effect that a woman has in her home. Because, we have that very famous email. Initially, it was an email, then it became a WhatsApp thing that, the husband comes home and says, what were you doing all day? You do nothing. And then one day she's not doing anything, and then the house is a real big mess and everything's, all over the place. And then he realizes how much he's doing. So we're like that, honestly, that emotionally also, we become that focal point of nourishment for our families. And the reason I'm saying this is because I've been through that journey of constantly questioning, why does a woman have to take this responsibility? Why does she have to be the one in the place of, emotional work or sorting things out? It's because we have that feminine energy. We have that feminine power, that if we own this power, we become super women. We can change everything about our family, But again, do not forget about Iyyaka nabudoo wa iyyaka nastaeen. Why? Because let go of the I. Let go of the my idea. I'm the woman and I would like the home to be like this. I would like rules to be like this. I would like family to be run like this. So you let go of the I, and then you constantly seek help from a God who will help you in ways you can't imagine. So your help can come in a million ways, different ways. Your son may get married, but he may not get married to the girl you completely agree with, you know. But the thing is then that you have to let go of me, my idea of the girl, and let your son have his own choice, and let other people have their own freedom to be who they are. And then you don't impose on them who you want them to be. You keep letting go of the I, and you keep surrendering, and you keep asking help from Allah. But then you become the fountain who is nourishing them to be who they are, not who you want them to be. So don't put potions of magic spells in your water, so that I want to put a love spell on my husband, and I want my daughter to be a doctor. So you put those spells in the fountain water so that when they drink it, they become just like you want them to become. See? So you let go of yourself, you make it pure. You let go of the I. When you remove the I from the fountain water, then you just become a vessel of God's purity, nourishment, growth, nurturing, and you just become the giver of what Allah was meant to give to them through you. So we purify ourselves as a woman, and then we hand over this power to Allah and let ourselves be used as this vessel to nourish our families, to build them into who they want to become. And it is so important that we give our husbands the right and the choice and the freedom to be who they are, but with the right kind of nurturing. We give it to our children, but with the right kind of, encouragement. And this discussion can go on and on. My time is up. But one very small, advice before going, which is more for myself than anybody, is whatever we focus on increases. Okay. So if we focus on the flaws, and if we keep saying, you never do this and you never do that, and you're always lazy and you never do throw the trash and you never, follow the plan, then we are really focusing on that. And we increase that. And we will notice that that issue just grows because we're focusing so much. Wherever attention goes, energy goes. And wherever energy goes, it grows. So just one advice is that whatever we want more of, we become the encouragers of that, and that is a nurturing approach compared to nag about the negative, putting the energy into the negative, nagging about that, and then expecting a different result. So, I know we do Quran tafsir, but this is just my understanding that until and unless these verses don't translate into very practical and simple actions in our everyday life, then we don't live the Quran every day. And that's why these little things, practical things about family life are the real us living the Quran. That's really living the Quran, inshallah. So I would like to end the session today with a prayer. O Allah, we come to you as your flawed and humbled and weak servants. O Allah, we strive and we fall. O Allah, we are nothing but failures again and again, and you are the one who picks us up, and we are the ones who keep falling, and you make us stand up straight. O Allah, there is no failure really if you can help us get up again. The only time we really fail is when we give up. But oh Allah, we seek your light and we seek your truth and we seek your love and your mercy in always resuscitating, resurrecting, and refreshing our hearts to renewed faith every single time we feel dull and down. We seek your help, O Allah, because there is none other than you who can do that for us. Help us to refresh our souls and our hearts with the pure water of your love and your knowledge and your truth. O Allah, let not the biases and the emotions of the me and the I get in the way of my seeking of you, the truth. O Allah, there is nothing I can do without your will, and there's nothing that can ever happen without your permission, O Allah. O Allah, open the doors of my heart and open the doors of my soul to reach your proximity. Ameen.